Thank you. Just a little quick background. I started playing with this kind of stuff back, well, it was probably 2009. Streaming, used something called Stream.tv. And at an FACUG, the Florida Association of Computer User Group meetings in 2011, Mike Ungerman and I were, after playing with a lot of things, decided to record, or not only record, but to stream the sessions so that Don Singleton in Tulsa could be able to see what was going on, and anyone else who wanted to join in on the meetings. So we played around with it a lot. So Mike and I have been playing with it for years. I want to share some things that Mike has sent out and did, and I'll talk about it when I do that. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I have sent a copy of the slides, because each of the slides will show you some equipment with a link in the slide. So you should be able to click on the link. Judy usually sends everything out, so I'm sure she will. Mike didn't participate except for sending me the information. I put this together this morning. I said it would be a lot easier if I put it all in one place. Just some things to consider, and some of the things we've already talked about. One thing is, make sure you got enough Wi-Fi bandwidth wherever your meetings are. This is important because if you've got 2 or 3 computers plus people's phones using that same Wi-Fi, even if they're not participating in the meeting, but they have their phones turned on and they are signing into that Wi-Fi, you can have considerable issues getting out or getting information, or getting people in. The speaker system and the microphone feedback is very important. You've got to get in the room and test it out. The other thing is people. You've got to have people handling this. If you've got only one person that does the equipment and no one else will help them, you're going to have a lot of issues. You've got to have people helping. You were talking about the projector in Zoom. This is something you have to consider. And again, practice, try it, and see what you can do with it. The microphone system for the room in Zoom can cause a lot of feedback, as we mentioned. So again, testing. The lighting in the room. If you got a lot of windows, be careful where you put your cameras, so that the lighting, that the people's faces aren't washed out that are in the room, and the screen isn't washed out when people are looking at the screen. Feedback, if the audience members have computers, so like somebody said, and you can't say it enough, is make sure everybody's got their sound off if they are watching it on their computers, or if you have more than one computer. And Zoom on the speaker's person's computer. Sometimes you're going to have speakers come in and they want to bring their own computer because that's where their presentation is. And what you have to do is make sure they have Zoom on their computer, or somehow get their presentation over to Zoom so that that can get out to the audience. What you don't want to do is have a camera on the screen. It's terrible. And camera and microphone for a live audience. Hang on one. Sorry, my voice is not working with me today. Camera and microphone for the live audience. So you want to be able to see the people and be able to hear them as well. Now, we were talking about different equipment, and Mike tried all kinds of equipment. How we did it is we were in a room, and I have a couple of shots of the meeting, but Mike and I practiced this at a meeting that was held in a Denny's restaurant. So the room is noisy. It's a side room, but the waitresses was coming in and out and so on. So there was a lot of noise, and he arranged the room in a U shape. The tables slid together and then made it a U shape. He kind of sat in the center with a camera and with a microphone on a stick. And I'm going to show you some of the equipment that he was using and some possibilities of others, because some of it isn't available now. But let me go to the next slide. He was using a monopod as opposed to just a light selfie stick. This is a little bit heavier, and it was only about $20. And one of the cameras that he had, or one of the microphones he had, he taped on. They futzed around and made it fit on the end of this, and then you could extend it, and then he would move it around in front of each of the people who each person who was speaking. And you'll notice at the bottom there is a link to where that is on Amazon. And so if you get these slides, you can just go right to it and see where this particular item is. Now, I'm not recommending this item, and neither is he. This is just an example of what some of what he either used or something similar to what he used. He also got a gimbal stabilizer. And what a gimbal is, it allows you, if you move your hand around, the camera still stays steady. And so to use it with either some kind of a camera or with a phone as a camera, it just makes it quite easy to do it, and it's not shaking, and it's just makes a nice picture. So this was one of them. The one he purchased is no longer available. So I went and I found a couple others. This was another one. This one wasn't, I think this is the one he had that wasn't available. These seem to have connections to to your phone, so you actually can stop and start the camera and do some adjustments to it from it, but that's not necessary. It's just a way of holding the camera, which is your phone. You might want to go even a little bit deeper and get a true camera with a good microphone on top of it. Now, so you don't have to be right in front of the person's face. You can zoom in on them a little bit, and the microphone will pick them up. What you have to be careful with is a lot of the cameras don't have a way to connect to your computer. So you got to make sure that it has either a USB or a Bluetooth connection, or it could have Wi-Fi. But Wi-Fi, again, is using part of the bandwidth. This is a lavalier mic that you can have pinned to somebody that's wired, and it would go to the computer for audio. I bought a cheap one using the Prime days, the last couple of days, and I can't seem to make it work with my Chromebook. I haven't tried it on my PC. This one says it should work. So if you get it from Amazon, there's a good chance if it doesn't work, you can send it back. But you want to make sure it has a connection that will connect to your computer, and that you'll have to test it out and make sure it'll work. This one has a switch between phone and camera, so you'd have it whichever one you're using it with. Here's another microphone, which is wireless using Bluetooth, or no, this one's using USB. There wasn't a price on it, but I believe it was around $20 or $30. This is one that it looks a lot bigger than it is, and I've got it right next to me because I ordered it and it came in yesterday. I've not tested it. I've not even tried it. But this is the one Mike had on the end of that monopod, and it's just a very small microphone that's actually designed to hook on the top. It's about the size of a webcam, so it's not very big, but it is omnidirectional, and it seemed to be a very good microphone. It worked very well, and I've got one I'll show it to you when I go back to where you can see me. This is one I purchased a couple of days ago. I just used it to do some recording on my Chromebook, so I know it works there. It is wired, but it is a good microphone, and it's got pretty good quality. You could have it in the center of the room, or you could move it around. You can get an extension cord. It is a USB cord. You could have an extension for it and move it around as well. It does have an on and off switch, so you could turn it off while you were moving it, turn it back on when you got it to the person who needs to speak. This is another one I just ordered. It has not arrived yet, so I don't know how well it's going to work. It's supposed to be one where you put it in the center of a room, and it should pick people up around it. We'll see how well that works when I get it. There's a hybrid example of the meeting that Mike and I tested with, and you can watch the meeting. There's a link to it on that page, and here's a couple of clip shots from the meeting. And you can see in the bottom one, that camera or the microphone, I should say, is sticking out towards Sean, who was speaking in that picture. And I can stop the share, and I'll take any questions.
You knew that you'd come through with everything. And he sent me all that stuff, and it's so much more effective to have it in that presentation than me, putting it into my Word document with the, the pictures of the components and everything. That's great. I got the gimbal stabilizer last Christmas for grandson number 3, who is enrolled in the journalism program down at Cal State Northridge. And he has had one article already published by a hockey magazine in Nevada and California. But I thought that would be something that that would be good for him to use. So I thank you for mentioning that, because that kind of validates that Grammy had a good idea there. And I love that wired table mic. Somebody was on one of our meetings. This is, a year or so ago. And that's the kind of mic that he used when he was on his meetings, and he found that little one that was on the table. He could bend it this way and that way, and he thought that was good. I have a link to the video in my handouts. And lighting, a couple of groups in their rooms said it's critical about the lighting because they had to go around and try to figure out how to turn off some of the lights in the room where they had their meetings, and it's not actually, their room, so to speak. So they had to ask people how they could, do that. And then somebody remembered the setup. And John is looking for the, John has found the video. Mike sent me the link. And after we're finished with Huey's questions, he's going to show a little bit of what they did. Over to you guys for questions for Huey.
Yeah, by the way, this is that little microphone. You can see how small it is. It folds up, but it's got a little microphone, and it clips on top, or it's got a hole in it, but the hole doesn't fit anything. It's either too big or too small. I was hoping it would just be the same size as one of the camera holders, and you could just put it on the end. So Mike jury rigged something. They drilled another hole in it. It's pretty solid, so it's not going to be a normal drill. But you could put a bolter in there and anchor it to that monopod or a monopod, and then have it on a real long stick and move it around. It is wired. It does have to be wired. Just you got to bear in mind that it's going to be a volunteer people issue as much as anything else. You got to have people, especially for those of you like with CFCS, where they met in a restaurant, or they meet in a library, where you got to walk in the room. The room is there. You don't have any access to it prior to the meeting, and somebody's got to set everything up. You're going to have more than the one person that used to do all the setup. You're going to have 2 or 3 people. You're going to have some people go in and test it in advance to make sure that it all works, and then make sure that you keep track of how you set it up, so the next time you can set it up the same way.
And it's critical to write down how your setup was when it worked. Okay, then John, you want to show a little bit of Huey and Mike's video for us, and so we can see exactly what went on.
Well, let's see how this works.
Don't forget that little checkbox and don't enhance. Oh,
Yep.
there they are.
Yeah.
Getting noise from
Hang on
outside.
a second. I'll get it. You know what I mean? Okay.
Okay.
That's gonna go get the-
All right, this is the.
Hang on.
And Huey,
Let us know
feel
when
free
you're
to
ready,
make
Huey.
comments.
We're ready.
We're ready.
Okay, this is the Central Florida Computer Society TechSig taking place at Denny's in beautiful sunny downtown Castleberry, except it's not very sunny. We have about 6 people here, including Mike Ungerman, who is doing the streaming. We're doing it through Zoom out of Bradenton. And at this point, I'm glad that we all made it, and we'll turn it over to Huey and Mike and let them do their thing.
Well, my
No,
suggestion is
we've done our thing. Now it's your meeting.
your meeting, just go around the room like you normally do.
Okay,
You can see that little mic on the end of the monopod.
You want to
Sticking
start?
out
You
there.
got any topics for us?
Let me look here, man. Oh, yeah. Does anybody know what this thing is?
You'll have to pass it around.
It is a,
Dashboard.
I think it's like, does it put out different sounds as you press the different colors?
Dashboard.
It doesn't do anything.
Or doesn't do anything? Or maybe the battery's dead.
Oh, it's probably a sound maker,
Yeah.
pre-recorded sound where you can press a button and it'll shout at your wife or another driver. or something.
It looks like there's a switch on it, but I can't make it. It comes apart.
Oops.
Thanks, Dan.
I'm gonna pass it over to Sean. I don't see is that a battery?
I don't know what that is.
I bet you it would come apart and there's
I
a,
think you should throw it in the trash.
That's what I've been thinking for a while.
or I could take it home with better tools. I'll get it first. Oh, I'm getting it.
If Paul Colton was with us, he would dissect it and get into the wiring.
I
figure
just-
the whole thing out.
I managed to open it and I see that the reason it's not working is there's tape on the battery.
And a
Number
piece-
one.
And a piece just fell out.
All those little buttons fell out. So I've got a strong flashlight and we'll have to look at, see if we can't get that.
While this is going on, what's happening in this
Going
meeting
back
is
in the case.
it's a
The,
show and tell type meeting. People bring things and they talk about things that they purchased and they just pass them around, or they show something on the screen and say, okay, this is what I found, what I bought this week, and just compare notes. It's a fully discussion type meeting. There's no presentation at all.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Cut, John.
But you can see that
okay.
Mike was moving the camera around. He was moving the microphone around. He was in the center, and the tables were set in a U shape.
And refresh our memory, what camera he has and how he's doing that, and was something on his monopod?
The monopod had the little microphone like I have here. Was the little Samson microphone, and that was on the end of the monopod, and it is omnidirectional, and it was it worked out pretty well. So I think it was probably the phone on the gimbal.
Right, but that wasn't too shabby. I noticed that nobody else hardly at all was at Denny's, and if it had been it was Sunday, wasn't it? Because our Denny's are filled with people on Sunday morning for breakfast, but other than
No,
that,
this was
everybody-
a Monday evening,
okay, so no wonder.
and they have a separate room in the back,
Right, but it
a
looked
closed
open.
room.
It was enclosed. I thought it was.
Yeah,
open.
yeah, that's a window.
Okay, so you can't pick up, your system wouldn't pick up anybody in the restaurant
No,
talking.
except for the waitress coming in and taking orders and that sort of thing, delivering
good.
food during the meeting.
Doesn't that look easy to do? You have to have somebody nimble to be moving everything around for you. I say a young, nimble person who can squat down or something. And hey, an admin chair would be good because they could just swivel around with no problem at all. Okay, thanks for sharing that, John and Mike and Huey for the link.
This is a boundary microphone. This thing is probably only a couple 3 inches in diameter. It is the lowest price USB connectable boundary microphone I could find. And somebody showed something similar today that might be a little bit less expensive with this. As audio microphones go, I'm never going to take this thing and put it in front of a soloist or an orchestra or a band or something like that. But it works very well for spoken word. Okay. I've used it in the middle of a conference table. I have taken and set it in the middle of a good size room at sort of tabletop level, and it will pick up anybody in the room. So you don't need any more microphones. You connect this to what we're calling the Zoom computer, and you select it as the microphone that Zoom uses. The laptops that we've had available to us when we were meeting in, for the hybrid meetings, typically have a relatively narrow field of view. Okay, to combat that, I got an El Cheapo. This thing was between 20 and 25 bucks. A webcam off of Amazon. This one is not available. There's tons of these out there. There's a lot of things I don't like about this, but it'll produce a good picture. The microphone in it is crappy. The mount right here does not twist around anywhere near enough, especially with regard to up and down. And that causes problems, but it works. Okay, we put this up on top of the 65-inch TV, and I think that's all I need to share. Okay, KISS is terribly important here. Keep it simple, stupid. A lot of things that I would have liked to have done, I could have done with OBS and with audio mixers and things like that. There is no way the volunteers that I have available at the church location when I'm controlling a meeting remotely, I've just had failure after failure, 2 of them in particular. We've taken pictures, we've drawn diagrams, it doesn't work. Keep it simple, okay? Last week we had a very successful meeting set up by somebody that is not at all technical, and it worked beautifully, okay?